What's up, friends? In this one, we are doing a tier list of spells, Kingdom Rush Battle spells, before the global release. Let's not beat around the bush and get straight to it. We just have 3 tiers in this one, because I think the spells are actually pretty good, most of them. The best are just that, the few best spells usable are the ones you can get away with using, perhaps in a combo or something, or a substitute if you have a lower level of a certain kind of spell. And bad is just okay. Let's just start with a bad one. The bad one is going to be the only one in this tier is teleport. Teleport creates a magic circle on the field that, well, teleports up to 5 units back, just doing 3 tiles at level 7. It has a very long cooldown, really long cooldown, not the biggest area of effect, and it is up for like 5 seconds. What's wrong with it, you ask? First of all, it doesn't do any damage. 2, it does not stall enemies. Stalling, you have to understand the difference between stalling and just pushing the enemy back, because what you wanna do with the enemies in this game is kill them. By far the easiest way to deal with any kind of threat in this game is to kill it. It's the easiest thing you can do. So the best spells, heroes and towers are gonna be the ones that do either the most damage or are best at stalling enemies under your towers so they could hit them and kill them. It's a very simple concept. You play it just like you play Kingdom Rush games. You stall you stall enemies at choke points, you block them there, you slow them, you stun them there, and they take the most damage and they die. Simple as that. Teleport doesn't do any of this. I promise you. The only few people, well, actually a decent bunch of people are using it for some reason. The best thing I see it do is save them from losing a heart when an enemy runs past all the defenses, doesn't get killed, and runs up to the exit, and they teleport it back and kill it with their hero or something like that. It's really the best it can be used, honestly. Because pushing just 2 and 3 tiles away, even, I don't know, 5 tiles is nothing. You realize how small the 5 tile range is? It doesn't even have that, it's closer to 2 tiles. Man, this spell is just garbage. You're better off using anything else. Speaking of, let's get to another one. At a borderline bad tier, but not as bad, it has some uses, is reinforce. Yep, reinforcements. With a 22-second cooldown, a lower cooldown than teleport, summons for 15 seconds, just 2 units with very low health, very low armor, and very low damage. Yeah, so their only purpose is to block an enemy for a couple seconds. They can decently tank, especially under certain characters that buff them, like Gerald or Deidre. They can tank even the middle pack of the enemies, a bit on the heavier side, but not the strongest enemies. They can even kill some of the weaker enemies, but that's about all they can do. They can also stall the boss. He obviously one-shots them because they're that fragile, but it is some stalling power. They don't do any damage and offer minimum to moderate stalling power depending on your setup. They're really useful if you have a flying hero. So I see all the dragon users pretty much always take reinforcements because, well, they cannot block at all. Most of the time, the thing is that most of the time you don't want to block with your hero anyway. I know it's gonna sound weird, but even with a melee hero you don't really want to be blocking because they're gonna take a lot of damage and they will, well, die. But that's a topic for another day. But they're really helpful against stuff like ambushers. Honestly, even not that helpful because well, yeah, they're gonna pop them out of the bush, but they're gonna keep fighting them and maybe kill them because the ambushers are the weakest type of enemy, the with the least amount of health and damage. And I mean, sure, it is helpful to an extent, but unless you have a working hero that can just come up to one bush, to another bush, to another one, to another one. It's not like there's a billion of them, there's like just a couple, right? And they die in one hit to your tower, so you just come up, they pop out, you move away. Pop out, move away. It's really that simple. Definitely more useful than teleport, but nothing to brag about. Another one they're gonna put in the usable but not as bad. I think it's gonna be, well, actually I have to think about it. Let it be this one. Yeah, cursed vines. So for each 20 seconds, which is a decently large cooldown, in a really large area of effect, you slow enemies for 36% for 5 seconds and do them about 1,000 damage seconds, so a total of around 5,000 damage. This would be generally a bit less, realistically speaking, but it also has a passive that increases hero damage by 3%, which is honestly worthless. What's 3% of 1,000? It's nothing. It's nothing. That's even if your hero does 1,000 damage. But it itself does a decent amount of damage. Decent amount of damage doesn't last very long. The slow is not that big. So the thing with Cursed Vines, it doesn't slow enough for it to be a good stalling tool. It dissipates really quickly and slows for only 36%. Why this number is so weird? Why 36? Why not 40 or just 30? 36%. That's weird. Anyway, but it does a decent amount of damage. Yet it's on a very long cooldown. Very long cooldown. You're not killing anything really tanky with this. Not by a long shot. And you're not really stalling much with this. It's not a bad spell. I mean, it's in a usable category, but I think it's the worst one of the other few that we're gonna talk about. Another one I'm gonna mention for this tier, I think it's gonna be, let's talk about the stun for a bit. It's a really simple spell. Is it better than Cursed Vines? I don't know, let me put it here for a moment. Lightning Stun. So each 18 seconds, which is a much lower cooldown than fucking 29, in a not that big of an area, you stun enemies for around 5 seconds. That's it. And also it has 3% decrease in magic tower skill cooldown. Then again, 3% is fucking nothing, so don't even count on that. It has low cooldown and it can stun flying enemies. It's actually a really good stalling spell. It's a really good stalling spell because 5 seconds out of 18, it's a really decent ratio. I like the spell, but then again, it doesn't stun for long enough. It has a tiny area of effect. You cannot really cramp up stuff with this, so you can AoE them, because then again, some enemies move a lot faster, some enemies move a lot slower. They won't be able to come up as fast, to cramp up as much, so you could just AoE all of them, and it doesn't do any damage. So I think it's much better at what it's trying to do, plus again, it stuns and stalls, therefore, flying enemies. It's much better at what it's trying to do than the Cursed Vines are, because it's not even trying to do damage, and it doesn't do any damage, but it's a great stalling tool. This one might do decent bunch of damage, and doesn't really offer any stalling power. Therefore, I think Lightning Stun is a better option. Yep, spoiler, the last one in this tier is gonna be Sabotage. Honestly, I think it's a really powerful spell. It's definitely the most powerful out of the bunch. So, in a very large area, almost as large as Cursed Vines, even if not the same range, it reduces enemy resistances by 95%. So on essentially stripping them off of any resistances for 13 seconds. 13 man. You realize how much that is? And it has a cooldown on the lower end at 18 seconds. So total, it has downtime of 5 seconds that you're not able to use the spell. This is really good. And this is really good. And 95 resistances cut down for 13 seconds. It's gonna amount to a really huge numbers of damage in total if you put it in the right place. The thing is, it offers 0 stalling power. 0. It really helps your towers do damage, but the thing with towers, they can get stunned, either frozen or poolied, or with the dwarven artillery, they can get rooted. I think that's the word that's gonna be, and this spell is gonna be wasted. So stalling in this kind of situation where your towers are disabled is of more value, because, well, the enemies are not gonna move as far away from your tower. They're gonna be still under them when they come out of a freeze or a poly, and they will continue to attack. In total, I think this is a great spell, but it has to be used in a combination with something else, and the only reason it's in the usable category because I think it loses really hard to another spell that we're going to talk about. So at the bottom of best tier, but wait, what did it say? What does it do? 2% decrease in all tower skill cooldowns. Man, whatever, just whatever. The first best spell in game is gonna be Rain of Fire, a meteor shower. Has a really long cooldown. It does a bunch of damage in an AoE, and it increases artillery tower damage. So the thing with damage and cooldown, when your artillery does 2000 damage hit, 3% out of that is gonna be noticeable, especially in an AoE, and like with 3% out of, I don't know, 18 seconds of cooldown. What is it? This is nothing. Okay, it's nothing. So I value damage more, and I actually think this is a useful passive. The thing is, it really has a long cooldown. But if you manage to load it with the booster that lowers spell cooldown, you're gonna be using it much more often, and it's gonna amount to a decent amount of damage at the end of the day. Actually, you know what? I might change my mind. I think it's getting down there for sure. Sure, it does a lot of damage. It does its job really well, but then again, it doesn't offer no stalling power, and damage is not like astronomically high. It does not one-shot waves or shit, and its main disadvantage is that it loses heavily to another spell that we're gonna talk later. But then again, imagine this trio, this combo right here. You put down the curse, you strip them of their resistances, you stun them, and you Rain of Fire them. You're gonna kill a lot of enemies. The thing is, they're not gonna be cramped up together, and it has a low AoE. Therefore, I'm putting it right here. I honestly liked it, but when I discovered this combo right here, let me just do this. When I discovered this combo, I don't think any of the spells are of any use. So let's talk about them one by one. First of all, Thunderbolt has even longer of a cooldown than Rain of Fire. Does a bit more damage, more strikes, more damage, and again, increase in all tower skill damage. The reason why it's important, not many towers have skills that damage. Well, actually, decent bunch of towers have that, but not all of them are useful. For example, for Tesla, this is really good because her AoE damage skill is always active, and she has a skill that damages an opponent's units, which is also really useful, and you want to do that as much as possible. Therefore, I value it more than even Rain of Fire passive. And the thing is, it stuns, so Thunderbolt also offers stalling value. It's nothing spectacular, anything like that. It's not a 5 second stun, but it's legitimately gonna strike them, stun them for like 4 seconds. They're not gonna move an inch. It strikes very rapidly, and each strike stuns. It strikes about once a second, therefore it stuns for 4 seconds. This is literally this spell, literally that, except it does like a 1200 damage. You see where I'm going with this? This is just a better version of Rain of Fire. Why I like Icy Zone so much, man. Do I love this spell? So, 22-second cooldown in a decently large AoE, like 95 is okay. You slow enemies for 8 seconds for 70%, man. 70%. First of all, 8 seconds to 22 seconds is a lot closer than like 4 and 5 to 18. Am I tripping? Oh, what the fuck did I just say? That's not true at all. But it's it feels much more impactful because it lasts longer and it can affect more units because you stunned. Only the enemies that are stunned are gonna be disabled. While with this 70% slow for most of the enemies, because they're only a bunch of fast-moving enemies, and this doesn't really work on them that much, and doesn't also work on flying enemies. But for slow-moving enemies, man, this is pretty much a stun. If they don't attack you, if you don't put up your hero to be attacked by the enemies, you're not blocking them. Well, why would you even want to do that if they're slowed so much? The enemies are pretty much stunned. So I'm viewing that as a 8-second stun for ground units, essentially. You realize how many hits can a tower do in 8 seconds? I'm gonna tell you. The hardest hitting tower in the game, which I think, I don't know, let's check Arcane Wizard. So Arcane Wizard attacks once every 2 seconds. He is able to dish out around 1800 damage. 1800 damage. So let's round it up to 2000 and make it 8000 damage essentially. So this is gonna enable Arcane Wither to hit for around 8000 damage. In terms of like stalling power on the towers, I know the numbers are rounded, but it's just for the sake of the argument. You can easily, especially in the deck I'm using that you see here, the Adria buffs up the damage, so it goes even higher than 2000. And then again, this spell has a lower kind of cooldown. It works on bosses really well. Like, think about it. How do you deal with the boss? The easiest way to win the game is to wait up till the last wave and to kill the boss, or at least to stall him. So if neither of you can kill him for some reason, to stall him till he would not move to your exit faster than the opponents does. How do you achieve that? This spell works the best. It really does, because reinforcements don't work like that on every other boss. For example, I know the range boss will just one-shot them and move away. Sure, the Yeti might stop to eat him. Sure, the troll might stop to attack them. And the guy on the boar will just even get faster, will move faster if he aggroes on a ground unit. And the other dude that moves really fucking slow, I forgot his name, kind of an ogre on the cartwheel or something. He moves really fucking slow and he just ignores all the ground units. With this, it works on all of the bosses, all of them. It slows all of them. Some of them are borderline unmovable with this. Therefore, it enables you slow them for 8 seconds, which pretty much is a stun. They're just not going to be able to move out of the range of a tier 3 tower. You slow them at your choke point with like 3 fucking Arcane Withers or 2 artillery towers. The boss gets popped like that. He just dissipates. And this spell single-handedly enables that. So let's talk about the big revelation. I bet not many of you people think that way, but I really am convinced that Polymorph, a fucking common card, is the best spell in the game. Legitimately. It has no passive, it has nothing. Nothing. What it does is transform the enemy units in a small AoE into a ship, removing all resistances they have and reducing their max health. And it also speeds them up, I think, reducing their max health by half, even more than that sometimes. Do you realize how crazy that is? This shit is essentially a bunch of direct damage in an AoE. That's what it is, essentially. For 9 seconds, you make it so the enemies lose half their health. This is what this spell does. It has a decently long cooldown, but 9 seconds? This is a lot, man. This is a fuck ton of time. Not only it helps you with, well, killing the enemies, because, I don't know, let's pick an orc shaman, the one that stuns. He has about 10,000 health, level 1, depending on your booster level power. He has about 10,000 health. His bullet has 5,000 health. You realize how much damage that is? None of the spells, not Rain of Fire, not Thunderbolt, nothing does so much damage. Not a single tower is capable of doing that much damage. Sure, you might say, but, well, they will gonna pull you back, and they're gonna get their health back. First of all, yeah, they're also gonna get their resistances back, but first of all, they're not gonna get any health back, the one that you took from them while they were shipped. So, I don't know, we take 5,000 out of 10,000, leave them at half health, and I don't know, you attack them, and you leave like 150 health. They're gonna have 5,000 and 150 health when they're out of a poly, and they're gonna get their resistances back. Sure, it truly shines when you're able to kill the units that you wanna poly. And this is not that hard. This is really not that hard. So what you do, you put up an ice field. You cramp up a fuck ton of enemies, like 10, 15, 20 enemies, because this has no limit. You cramp up a fuck ton of enemies on a single lane. You have them group up and move up to your single artillery tower. Just one, man, just one. A high level, good artillery tower like Tesla. Those units move up, you poly them, you thunderbolt them. Artillery tower attacks like 1, 2, 3 times, they're all dead. So you just dealt on it like a 30-second cooldown. If we don't count thunderbolt, each 30 seconds you can kill all the kind of enemies. Sure, not all the things get polyed. By the way, the things that are not polyable are slowable with this shit. So I don't know, like the phalanx, for example. The dudes with the shield that summon tiny enemies, they're really hard to kill, but they're really slow moving, and they cannot be polyed. They can be stunned and they can be slowed. So in this vein, something like this occurs that would strip their armor off, would play out better than the poly, because, well, obviously poly just wouldn't work on them. But you got the slow. You just move your hero up to any magical damage dealing tower. You just block them here, or you just slow them with an ice field. There, so that this minion is essentially stunned because they move that slow, and the tower is gonna deal with them. So what I'm saying is that all the spells, the ones that are in those two categories, have their uses, but most of the time, as the enemies are now, I think those 3 are the best ones, because they offer the most stalling in the game to any kind of enemy except flying enemies. You don't want to stall them anyway, you want to fucking kill them. They're not that tanky, they're only like, what are 2 tanky flying enemies that both have high magic resistance. Therefore you put up a couple archer towers and you deal with them this way. The highest, well, I don't know, we want to call it This is the highest direct damage spell, essentially. The highest direct damage spell in the game and the second highest direct damage spell in the game. So what I told you in the beginning, I'm convinced that the best way to win in Kingdom Rush battles is to wait until the boss, because it's really hard to break your opponent's defenses with lower kind of boosters, because you have to build them up, you have to look out for yourself, so you don't lose so early and stuff like that. So the best strategy is to wait until the final wave, wait until the boss, and fucking kill him. Fucking kill him. This helps to deal with all the kind of annoying enemies that you can't really come up to, even the ones that attack from range, that kill your heroes in like 2-3 hits. You just poly them, they are nothing. And they could die to your other spells or auto attacks from your towers. So I wouldn't really have it any other way. The order is, I think I like the way it's ordered. I might put it up there because I really like the spell, except I think it's just a worse poly version. It just is. It just is. Sure, you might strip the enemy of all their resistances, but imagine this guy. Let me quickly find him. No, but I don't know. Yeah, this guy comes up. It doesn't say how much health he has. He has around 25,000 health as far as I remember, and he has very high magic resistance, so they don't, well, attack him at all. Sure, you're gonna strip him of that, and you're gonna have your mage towers attack him, right? And do damage. Well, first of all, it wouldn't help all the physical damage dealing towers because he doesn't have physical defenses. And second of all, they would still have to punch through 25,000 health, even with no resistance, and you would have to keep him at place. Unlike with Poly, yeah, sure, they move faster a bit, but they have no resistances at all, and they have their half, and they have their health halved. The same way with any other character. Just take this one, for example. He has high armor, does a lot of fucking damage, moves really slow, and has a decent bunch of health. What do you do with him? You poly him. He comes up to your mage tower and dies in like 3 hits. Boom, threat dealt with. And they spawn like a number of 1, 2, maybe you can see 5 of them in a wave. It's gonna be a lot, but yeah. And like I said, poly also disables all kind of abilities. Like Smasher is polyable, if you didn't know that. He just wouldn't, you again slow the Smasher at the entrance, all the other dudes as well. You move up your hero to your first tower, so the Smasher would aggro on you. They all kind of move just a tad bit closer to your tower. You poly them, you thunder strike them, and your tower does the rest. Boom, threat dealt with. An entire opponent's booster just vanished. Anyway, I think that's it. It was significantly easier than talking about heroes because there are very little spells. Well, there are not that many heroes, honestly, but yeah, that's my ranking. Please tell me where you think I'm wrong at, or what you disagree with, what kind of spell combinations you're using, but I'm really sold on that top combination, and I don't think at this moment anything could match it. So then again, leave a comment. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.